I want to do something a little bit different today with our prophecy update. There was a really interesting article that came out last week on Thursday that really caught my attention. I don't know if you saw it in the news. A Dutch bishop, this headline read, calls for God to be called Allah. The article goes on to say, referring to God as Allah will bring Christians and Muslims closer together. The Roman Catholic Bishop of Breda in the Netherlands said last week, Bishop Muskens has argued that Christians and Muslims worship the same God. It is immaterial how God is named. Now, I realize for most of you this is incredulous, and it would probably go without saying that this is absolutely wrong, and as wrong can be. However, I think it's incumbent on me to share with you the truth. Growing up, my mom used to pronounce a blessing on me in Arabic. She would say to me, Ism Allah alaik. I had no clue what it meant until I asked her, what does it mean, Ism Allah alaik? To which she responded and told me that I'm pronouncing a blessing on you in Arabic, and I'm saying the name of God be on you. Ism, name, Allah, alaik, Allah or God, alaik, on you. Well, then I get saved at age 19 in 1982. You didn't need that information. Don't do the math on that. But anyway, and then I realized, wait a minute, it's not Allah. Allah is not the same as Jehovah. Well, my parents didn't know any better. And that's what I really want to communicate to you, because prophetically in the last days, this is going to become more commonplace. I'm sorry to say, I'm sad to report that you're probably going to be hearing a lot about this. And so what I want to do today, just briefly, is show you why Allah is not the same as Jehovah. Allah is the moon god. Here's a website I found with some really interesting information. They say the Muslims claim that Allah in pre-Islamic times was the biblical God of the patriarchs, prophets, and apostles. Was Allah the biblical God or a pagan God in Arabia during pre-Islamic times? We can endlessly speculate about the past or go and dig it up and see what the evidence reveals. This is the only way to find out the truth concerning the origins of Allah. The hard evidence demonstrates that the God Allah was a pagan deity. In fact, he was the moon god who was married to the sun goddess, and the stars were his daughters. Now, this is based on archaeological finds, which is huge. And by the way, this is the way that whenever they do an archaeological dig and find something from some ancient civilization, they go to, of all places, the Bible to verify, to document, to validate, to identify that which they have just uncovered. You know, it's interesting, in Mormonism, there is not one, I mean not even one, archaeological dig that documents or validates any of the civilizations that are in the Book of Mormon. There was never any people called the Nephites. There is not one archaeological find that documents that. It is a false religion. And so too is Islam a false religion. And Allah, the moon god. I'm going to show you a graphic here on the screen. This is the archaeological find of what the archaeologists, you know what I'm talking about. Those guys, they say that this is a carved, graven image of the moon god. Notice circled here in the yellow is, I don't know if you can see it very well on the screen, but it's actually the crescent moon carved on the chest of this moon god, Allah. On September 11th, that date was not arbitrary for the Muslims to attack us here in the United States. It was the day that the moon was a crescent moon, very crisp in the blue skies that September morning. Well, anyway, this Allah is the moon god. He is not the same as Jehovah. In Psalms 138, verse 2, the psalmist declared, I will bow down towards your holy temple and will praise your name for your love and your faithfulness. For you have exalted above all things your name and your word. And then the next Psalm, 139, verse 20, says, they speak of you with evil intent. Your adversaries misuse your name. God has exalted his name above his word. His name is holy. His name is not to be taken in vain. Paul, writing to Timothy, said in the last days they will blaspheme God. They will be blasphemers, blaspheming the name or the nature of God. See, if the Muslims can convince the world that the God Allah is the same God as Jehovah, then that's a first step and a huge step towards this one world religion, in which and at the core of which I believe will have a very pronounced role with Islam at the center. Because during the tribulation, believers refuse to accept the mark of the Antichrist, they are beheaded. And for those of you who have been studying this and know this, you know that beheading is a sacred practice. It is a command in the Quran to Muslims to behead the infidels, the unbelievers. You know, early on in my walk with the Lord, I always thought that beheading was like the guillotine. No, they would, literally cut your head off from one side to the other. I remember when we were in Israel, in Jerusalem, the old city, and I was negotiating with an Arab at the time, and trying to purchase these items, and he got really mad at me, and he looked at me and he said, "You are a hard man." And he looked at my wife and he said, "If I were married to him, I would kill myself. I would cut off my head from one side to the other." It's like, wow, dude, chill. What he was saying was, true. That's how he was brought up, that's what you do. And that's what they are commanded to do, is to behead you. And it's not, that long ago that we started revisiting beheadings in the news with the likes of Daniel Pearl and others who were beheaded by Muslims. They are commanded in the scriptures to do that. So, I think that this is all part of the prophetic program that we have laid out for us and outlined for us in the pages of Holy Writ, that Islam will have a pronounced role in the one world religion. And how convenient to make Allah the same as Jehovah. Oh, it's all the same God. It's not the same God. So now, whenever I think about pronouncing that blessing in Arabic, I've substituted, it's not Ism Allah alaik, it's Ism Yeshua alaik, or Yeshua, or Yahweh, or Jehovah alaik, the name of God. It is a high honor in the Arab and the Hebrew culture to address the individual by the name. In fact, my son Elias, or Ilias as it would be pronounced in Arabic, it is a higher honor to call me the father of Elias than it is to call me pastor even. So in my culture, they would address me Abu Ilias. Interesting, in the scriptures, we see Jesus being addressed, Jesus, the son of Joseph. They would honor them by the name of the firstborn son. There's more to it than that. And stay tuned, I think it's going to get worse. And again, this is a picture of, and it points to a fulfillment of that prophetic